A complex game that requires years of work, immense skill to build, and it is supposed to sell for nothing at all? How is that supposed to work? Let's find out. Hello everybody and welcome! Development on Kitten Space Agency, a potential spiritual successor to space simulation game sensation Kerbal space program, is progressing steadily. If you are familiar with game development, or any type of product development in fact, then you will know that making cool things requires a bit of money before you can ship something out the door. KSP is selling on Steam for $40 US. Its unfinished sequel is being offered for $50 despite nobody working on it anymore. So how much is the new kid on the block going to cost you? $0. Dean Hall, CEO of Rocketworks, the studio working on Kitten Space Agency, confirmed on the KSA Discord that they will not offer the game on Steam or any other platform initially. Instead, they want to offer it as a free download and give players the option to contribute money of their own free will. If you remember, Dean said something similar during our interview back in December.
Maybe there's a way for me to figure out how to make KSA completely free.
I'm going to link to that interview down in the description and on that thing on top. It appears a decision has now been made, with Dean stating on the KSA Discord that the game will be distributed as a torrent and funded via contributions. Let's get into how that might work, and if this type of video is to your liking, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. We're almost at 100,000 subscribers, a milestone I hope to celebrate with you very soon. When the concept of making KSA free came up in a previous video, there were a couple of people reacting skeptical to that idea. And I also noticed some of my fellow creators not warming up to it. Why? One word: Steam. Ever since it entered the scene in 2003, Steam has dominated the digital distribution for PC games. If you are a developer and want to sell your game for PC, there is basically no way around it. Yes, there were attempts by EA and Epic to build competitors, and GOG has managed to create its own niche, but nobody would bat an eye if you called Steam the monopolist in PC game distribution. So the worry that people that want KSA to succeed have is that if the game is not on Steam, players will not find it or discover it via recommendations on the platform. But Dean Hall has remained adamant. He does not want KSA put on Steam. To quote him, the Steam argument has been settled. It's not going on Steam. And he does have a couple of reasons for that. While it's easy for players to purchase games on Steam, selling them and making enough money off of them is not a cakewalk for developers. First, there's the 30% cut for the privilege to have your game listed on the platform. But there are other issues. I exchanged a couple of DMs with Dean Hall asking for clarification about KSA's distribution model. He explained to me that his company's other games, mainly Icarus and Stationeers, receive a lot of refunds based on download issues, something the game developer is not at fault because they have to use Steam's technology. And apparently, Steam made it more difficult for studios that update their games very frequently, which would be detrimental to KSA since it will be a work in progress for probably a couple of years. There's another financial aspect to the current plan for KSA. According to Dean, offering the game DRM free as a torrent would drastically cut the cost of doing business. No money needs to be spent on CDNs, no money spent on authentication methods. It would result in faster downloads, and should the studio ever fold, the game can still be distributed easily via the peer-to-peer network. People would of course not have to figure out how to use torrents, since the studio could easily bake a client into the install application for KSA. Then there is the personal issues Dean has with Steam. Due to his contacts within the game development industry, he claims that he knows Steam is lying about certain things, according to him even criminally so. And then there's the whole gambling issue. This is something that would take up way too much space in this video, so I'm going to link to CoffeeZilla's in-depth expose on how Steam is actively promoting underage gambling and other scummy practices of Valve, the company behind Steam. And contrary to what I said earlier, Many small game companies claim that Steam does not help them getting the word out about their product at all. Similarly to many other facets of our current economic system, popular franchises benefit the most off of it. A new property by a relatively unknown studio? Good luck getting noticed without promotion outside of Steam. KSA aims to do differently to find out if there is another way of funding games outside of the AAA segment. There is precedent of purely donation-funded enterprises. Wikipedia comes to mind. Or to stay in the gaming world, itch.io, where developers can decide themselves what percentage of the revenue of the game they sell gets shared with the platform. A lot of indie games can be found there. It's been around since 2015, so it appears to work out for them. But contrary to Wikipedia, Dean talks about contributions, not donations, when the topic of funding KSA comes up. He and other members of the development team are very open and transparent about the development of the game and the dealings of the studio in general on their Discord server. And Dean has many times acknowledged that KSA will rise or fall depending on its mod ability. He is convinced that the most qualified people for improving the game are the members of the community that already made KSP great through the mods they provided for that game. So, how much money would be actually needed? Keeping in line with the thought of transparency, we know that Stationeers requires about $2 million per year to run. Icarus, roughly $9 million. Every cent of revenue above this goes into new projects such as KSA right now. But for it to reach its potential, it needs to grow. That means hiring more people, which increases cost. 70% of Rocketworks' expenses are salaries, not unlike many other industries relying on brainpower. The hope is to receive a couple of million US in contributions per year, which would enable them to accelerate development significantly. Does that math check out? Well, Kerbal's space program was sold more than 3 million times with 100,000 people leaving reviews on Steam. If just those reviewers were willing to contribute, say, $10 to KSA's development, the studio would get $1 million in revenue that they do not have to share with anyone. However, should the income stay below a certain threshold, KSA will probably no longer be distributed for free, and the team will turn to more traditional methods of funding the development. But there might be other options to generate revenue, like collaborations with companies that develop equipment for space, for instance Vast or Axiom, who are working on new space stations. However, according to Dean, companies can get very fussy when it comes to seeing something with their logo on it explode, even in a game. He said that he knows people who had worked on the racing game Forza, and how cars looked after a crash was apparently a big problem for the brands. I guess that explains why Wreckfest was developed without any real-world car brands involved. Really fun game, by the way. With this, I put the question to you. What do you think about KSA going the contribution funding route and avoiding the more traditional methods? Were you aware of the shortcomings of Steam I mentioned? Let me know in the comments below. And another point to think about. I mentioned earlier that this channel is closing in on 100,000 subscribers. If a tenth of all of you wonderful people who have subscribed were willing to support me via the lowest Patreon tier of €1 per month, it would easily enable me to be a full-time creator with money to spare on stuff like an editor or finally someone who could do decent thumbnails, because I suck at them. But I understand, since I'm surely not the only creator you watch, contributing to each one would drain your wallet very quickly. There's other ways to support aside from Patreon or YouTube memberships, and that is via super thanks or checking out the affiliate links I have provided in the description with a couple of tools and gadgets I use to create these videos. Anyway, I'm going to keep watching KSA's progress just as I did over the past months. What is your take on the game so far? Does it have the potential to reach Kerbal Space Program's heights one day? I tell you what, I'm going to take a look at the other games by Rocketworks, Stationeers and Icarus to get a bit of a feeling for how they deal with gameplay mechanics and onboarding new players. Because one of my big worries is that while Kitten's space agency might be a technological marvel once it's finished, it might not be as fun or accessible as the Kerbal games. Only way to find out is to play it, which is hopefully soon. As usual, a huge thanks to all of the wonderful people over here on the left side of your screen who selected a higher tier on either Patreon or YouTube memberships. I really appreciate the support. And I hope I can continue to provide some decent content for your entertainment going forward.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel for more and follow me on my social thingies. The links are in the description. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.